Hi everyone, I'll be presenting my 3-day lesson plan. I wanted my first lesson to feel like a warm-up and something that prepares the students for the second and third day of this 3-day lesson. Throughout the entire semester, I was really inspired by David Zinder's and Chekhov's idea of mind and body connection and storing memories and experiences in your brain that you can look back to when you're doing improv with a class or if you're doing a quick design exercise with them, and that's exactly what this first lesson is. It's important to note that these lessons would be used in a set design class or a general theater design class and not in an acting class. The work I did in high school in my stagecraft class wasn't anything like the lessons I've prepared, and I think that's what's inspired me to create really deep lesson plans for this final. Instead of just learning about general stagecraft work, I really wanted, in this hypothetical situation, for the students to really think about designing and using their imagination to create a space for performance. In this first lesson, each student will be assigned a descriptive word. For example, it could be lazy or stunning or ordinary. Instead of taking a lot of time to create a rough model, I thought it would be better for the students to create 1 or 2 rough sketches for a space that encompasses the word that they were assigned. I think it can be really easy to mull over many ideas and get stuck picking which design works, and instead this lesson will make them think quickly and on their feet about what space they want to create and what works for the word that they were assigned. Not only will this exercise help them think about the space that they're creating and designing, but it will also make them think about the mind of the character that they're creating this environment for. Because this is just the warm-up part of this exercise, I didn't want to spend a lot of time critiquing the sketches because they were just quick ideas to prepare them for the next lessons. So each student will have 1 to 2 minutes to present their sketch and explain how the word inspired them for the space that they ended up creating. The second part of this lesson plan is titled Mind and Body Design Exercise. I feel as a set designer, I didn't have a lot of experience in the actual space that I was working in. Maybe we did a site survey, but I feel we never really had the time to walk through the space and really look at it. Instead, you're really focusing on making a model box and looking at it that way, but it's much different to look at it in the actual space, because when you're thinking about how an actor is going to move through a certain set piece or on a set piece or how they interact with certain props, it's really hard to visualize that when you're working in 1/4 inch scale. So I think having the class go in and do a site survey and a walkthrough of the space so they can look at sight lines, entrances and exits, what the playing space looks like, and what the audience space looks like would be really important for the second part of this lesson plan. Once again, I'm really focusing on that idea of mind and body connection because I feel like that's not something that's deemed important as a designer, but after taking this class, I really think being in this space and physically moving around it yourself will help when you're designing and thinking about placing pieces and how an actor would move through that space themselves. So for this exercise, we'll be splitting the class into 2 groups, and each group will be assigned 1 monologue. The students will read the monologues together and then look through props, furniture, platforms that have been made available to them. I thought the supplies should be very limited just because it's a 1-day exercise and they won't have time to construct a whole set. And again, I'm really encouraging them to use their imagination and think fast and decide what works for their scene and what doesn't work. I imagine they would have some sort of small studio space or black box. So we would split the space into 2, and the students will begin to construct the design for the scene that they were assigned in their groups. They will reference the monologue throughout the design process to assure that they are thinking about the character and how they would utilize all the things they've been given, like props, furniture, etc. Once they have finished as a group designing the small space, they will move through the space as if they were performing the monologue themselves and change things if the group thinks it's necessary to in the end. This brings us straight into the third and final day of the lesson. The design students will have an opportunity to collaborate with 2 actors during this lesson. The actors will have memorized the monologues the class used to design their 2 small sets. The actors will be seeing the space for the first time when they perform the scene for the class, adding a new perspective that will most likely be different from the ones of the design students. This lesson will allow them to see how the actors use their mind-body connection and imagination to move through the space how they see fit. So the students in this set design class will act as the audience for this performance. They will watch as the 2 actors perform their scenes and observe how they move through the environment they created for that scene. The students will take notes for both their design and the other group's design. I think the most important part of this lesson will be the conversation and critique that happens after the performance. The actors and designers will have a conversation about the space and how it felt for them to move through it as a character in that scene. The actors will give their thoughts about the design and how they thought it worked or didn't work for them. The designers will then speak about the differences they saw and how they imagined the actor utilizing the space and how they actually did during that short performance. In the end, they will talk through how it could have been done differently and what ideas they think were appropriate for that scene. I'm not sure if this lesson is too advanced for a high school class. I think it's something I wish I had the opportunity to do. I'd never had the chance to work with actors. It was always like 2 very separate classes, like a theater acting class and a theater design class. And I think it would have been really, really helpful if I had more experience working with actors before I got to college, so I could have known what kind of conversations to have with them and how to give them advice and how to tell them what I imagine for a scene, because I think sometimes people think it's inappropriate for designers and actors to talk just because that is the director's role, to be in charge of what the actors do. But I think it's also really important that the designers have some input and that there can be an open dialogue between actors and designers. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'm looking forward to watching everybody's videos this week. Thank you.